All right, so this session's on tips around influencer campaigns, basically selecting the right campaign for your brand or working with brands and ways that you select the best campaign for yourself as an influencer. Let's start with the agency side. When you're working with a brand, how do you go out? How are you finding these influencers to work with? What's the most important for your clients?
So the first thing for us to do is really understand the brand and what their audience is. So are they looking for females? Are they looking for a certain age demographic? But also more importantly, like what is the interest of the females? Is it someone who is a lifestyle person or someone who wants to be outdoors? So we then take all that information, we have our own tools internally, and search for the right influencers that are actually interested in that brand and interested in other things that are relevant. So let's say it's camping, we're gonna look for a girl who's gonna be out camping and hiking for a product for like REI or a brand like that. So really it's important not just on who the influencer, how many followers they have, but what their interest is and also who is engaging with them. So we wanna make sure that the people that are engaging with them aren't just engaging with them because they think she's a hot girl. We want to make sure that they're engaging with her because they think it's awesome that she's a girl outdoor camping and they want to do the same thing.
On the influence side?
Because social media is extremely transparent, you want to make sure that there's a certain level of authenticity when you're aligning your brand with that of a larger brand. So you don't want to just, post a product as an ad, but like, do you really use that product? And like, does your brand and that brand align in some sort of way? And that all of that is important because your viewers will be able to tell. Oh, sure. Sorry about that. So just saying, like, there has to be a level of authenticity whenever you're, engaging in a brand partnership. You don't want to come across as like, oh, you're just posting the ad. Do you really use that product? And is that product something that really aligns with what your core brand is? And that's all important because, like I was saying, social media is extremely transparent and your viewers will be able to tell.
On the business side, on the brand side, we find that there's, you need to know your audience demographic and all that good stuff. And your key goals as metrics, as KPIs, but not as creative. So in a brand campaign, there's really only 3 types of goals. There's going to be, are you going to build your audience, are you going to tell your story, or are you going to drive an action? And different types of posts, different channels, different formats, all have different outcomes to those 3 things. Conversely, on the influencer side, the creator side, and I do a lot of food posts, a lot of food influencer stuff, and I know my audience super well. I know what they like, I know what they respond to. I could do a sponsored post every single day, but as long as I do it right, no one's going to care as long as it's cool. So I know the creative, I know my audience, I know the format that resonates. So the best campaigns, I think, are the ones that blend the two, because then my content, sponsored or not, is still authentic. But if I know what the goals of the business are, then I can focus on the goals, but let me have control of the creative.
So in terms of, there's been a lot of discussion today around engaging and being authentic, and my session earlier was about how to engage with influencers and work with them. There's a lot of discussion about discovery, right? I know the last session in the tools section was about how do you find these people, but one of the questions that I have is, as an influencer, do you prefer to be consistently barraged by multiple brands, or do you like to pick a few brands and focus on them? Like, what is your philosophy on that?
Me personally, I don't mind, getting the emails from brands and brands reaching out to me. If it's something that I'm interested in, then great. If not, I just say, at this time I'm not interested, because at the end of the day, it does have to be something that holds my interest. And then just reversing that, like, there's times that I go after brands that I want to work with. It's like a reverse approach. My favorite brands, a big way is to tag them on Instagram or tag them on social media. A great photo is a great photo regardless. So, if a brand sees it, it's a great photo and they're gonna like it. And then being consistent. If you're continually, posting, if you get a brand to follow you and they're able to see your post on a consistent basis, all that for me is a recipe for success when, trying to get that brand partnership, that dream brand partnership that you want.
Yeah, I think that I'm always down for new opportunities, new people, new collaborators. I think it really just comes down to that brand alignment is what's key for me, because especially working in different fields, fashion, music, whatever, it has to come down to like, do I feel this music? Do I like this brand? Whatever it is. And that can transcend genres, that can transcend everything. But a key to that, and we touched about this in another panel, but you have to know, if you're going to be on the influencer side, you have to know your aesthetic and what you're doing, because that's what's going to tie that in for all those brands. Because when they come to your page, if they like your work and they want to work with you, it's because of that aesthetic.
Which leads to the next question. Like, what are the key things that you look for when someone wants to engage with you in terms of outreach? What do you do to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in terms of engaging, or making sure that there's alignment there in terms of just things they like, or things that the influencer is passionate about?
Yeah, so I definitely look through, for me personally as an agency, when we do it, is we actually look through the influencers and look for ones that they aren't sponsored post, so we can see what they really, truly, organically like. Because yes, they're going to have sponsored posts that they like, but they're going to have a lot of sponsored posts that they're getting paid a bank for. I mean, there's always going to happen, even if they hope to like the brand. So we try to look through their posts that aren't paid for and aren't sponsored, see what they're posting about, make sure that it's authentic, and see if that matches our brands. And then, like always, we look for who's engaging with their photos. So we want to make, again, like the model stuff, we want to make sure that it's the right person engaging that, and even go to the next level. And if they're engaging, what are the person that's engaging, what are they posting about? So going to that second and third degree level is kind of what we take some time. Luckily we have some programs to do it, but we take some time and actually kind of try to dig into second degree, third degree, and what everyone's posting and liking.
I think it's important just to point out that if a brand's reaching out to me, there's certain things that I want. Like, I want them to, obviously if they want me to work for them, I hope that there's gonna be financial compensation, or at least something that I'm really interested in actually doing. And likewise, if you're an influencer reaching out to a brand, you gotta be presenting them with some value. You can't just be like, man, I want this brand to pay for my trip. There's gotta be a reason why that brand will want to work with you. So one thing, especially on travel stuff, is I never ask a brand to pay for the trip for me. Like, I'm already going. I booked the trip, and then I just know that I'm gonna figure it out from there. It's more like, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you wanna be a part of this? And then also coming up with unique pitches for that brand. Like, I just went to India last month, and after traveling to different places where, as a photographer, you take pictures of kids or something, and you show them on the back of the screen, and they get excited, and then you walk away. I was like, how cool would it be if I could actually print the picture for them on the spot? So by presenting that to Polaroid, hey, got a cool idea that you guys might be into, they were super stoked on it. But I was bringing them value, not just saying like, hey, will you guys give me money and I'll post a picture of your camera?
You have to really put forth what makes you unique. There's so many influencers out there, so you have to, state what it is that you can offer that they're not going to be able to get anywhere else. And then also, when you are reaching out to brands, you have a short window where you have their attention, so you have to make sure your subject line in the email is going to nail it. And then it has to be precise in your email, but still straight to the point, but powerful. And also, you have to have a powerful media kit to go along with that, so that they can click on it and in 5 seconds be able to see, okay, like, this is somebody that I'm possibly interested in. So that's all important as well.
Great. Yeah.
On the brand side, I'm on the kind of dual side, but I look for not just the followers and the affinity and all that good stuff too, but like, what's the engagement? And I don't just look at the engagement into the posts and likes, but I look at the ratio. So it's like, what is the ratio of, if they have 100 likes and they have 1,000 followers, it's a 10% like ratio, that's great. But then what are the comments like? And the comments, you not just 2 or 3 word comments, you want actual, like, real feedback comments. If I'm looking at that and that their followers are responding, then that's a really good buy, whether it's 1,000 followers or 1,000,000 followers, right? And the more you get, the lower that goes. On the creative side, like, if a brand doesn't offer me money, unless they give me a trip, a car, or something I was gonna buy already, it doesn't respect me as a creative. Like, if everything's negotiable and I'll do it for free, or I'll do it for 20 bucks, I'll do it for 100 bucks, then that just defeats the value of my creative. I think what you're doing is great, because you're saying, I have this creative idea. I know what will be really awesome. And then you're making it work for Polaroid. And that's a good way to get the attention of the brand. And the good brands will understand that and respect that.
So on the brand side, I know there's been a lot of discussion too about kind of scaling the outreach and maximizing it. And I guess your new company is kind of working on that idea as well for Instagram.
Actually, every platform. I don't want to plug.
okay.
I mean, I want to be helpful, not plug my company. But
No.
but yeah, that's the idea. Because if you look at industry numbers alone, if you look at every report that's come out in the last quarter, micro-influencers outperform per 1,000 followers, massively outperform large influencers. So the minute you break 100,000, and our data supports this, your like and engagement ratio drops to 1 to 5% at best. The minute you're under 100,000, you're going to typically trend between 3 to 10%. So for my food stuff, I'm getting 10% like ratios and 5% comments, which is really, really high, which means my audience is seeing it, they're responding it, they're resonating. So what we do is we understand that you need to buy micro-influencers at scale, but if you're an agency, you're not going to go first identify them somehow and then write 100 emails to buys that might only be $25 a buy. And that's too much of a hassle. So we identify that. What we do is creators sign up, they create a profile, they create packages, and they're define the packages. So you would have a very specific offering that's unique to the creator. They define the nature of the creative. They have the demographic, they have their pricing, and then a brand could just click on their link or go to the site and search by hashtag and buy that package. And it keeps it really simple. So then everyone's on the same page. The brand communicates the goals and the messaging, the creator creates the creative.
Because that's one thing I consistently hear. You probably hear it too. How do I scale authenticity, right? Coming back to the topic we're focused on here. How do you do that as a big brand?
Yeah, so one thing we also do is there's definitely lots of platforms like his and other ones, but something we do is we work with the micro-influencers to host small influencer gatherings. So I could go and recruit one of these two guys, and they'll bring 10 more micro-influencers just like themselves for an authentic gathering where they're going to interact with the product, and they're all going to be posting all on brand. So it's an easier way to activate at scale because I only have to get 10 influencers, and they're going to get 10 influencers. So now I have 100 influencers working on the campaign for me, and I'm only having to communicate to 10 of them.
But you're creating an awesome experience.
Experience what they're going to be using the messaging and posting as they're supposed to be. It's almost like you're treating these, the top 10 influencers that you're working with, you're almost treating them like little contractors. Wow. And they're actually organizing everybody else underneath them.
So on the other side, how many times a day do you receive an email that you're like, oh, this is just mass email? Someone hasn't taken the time to think about anything here or think about what
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot?
Over a dozen a day of just I honestly don't even read most of them. It's just stuff like, hey, you're an influencer, do this, or check out our awesome new way to get more whatever. And I just, unless it's Cole, what's up? I saw this picture, super cool, we love, something more personal, I just don't really read it.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. I get a ton a day, and I look at it and I can tell, and then it's I'm super busy, so I don't really have time to respond or engage in it just because I know what it is. So
as an influencer, the best brand deals I've got that I've liked has been when I use a product and I posted about it because I love the product, and then if their agency's on top of it, they'll hit me up and say, oh, we love your post, and then I'll be like, yeah, I'd love to do something more with you. Let's collaborate, and that happens. I'd say 7 out of 10 of my paid sponsorships came from that type of experience.
So do you guys have any examples that you would like to talk about in terms of, hey, I had this great experience with a brand, this is how they approached me, this is why I work with them? Anybody?
I actually just got back from New York, so I'm partnering with the French skincare line called La Roche-Posay. They're under L'Oreal, and how I initially even got in contact with them was from me posting on Instagram. Like he said, I just used the product. I was in Puerto Rico and I was posting a little flat lay on the beach, and my facial moisturizer, what I used, and it just so happened they were running a contest, and I ended up winning the contest, and I had no clue about it. And then from there they sent me free product, and of course I posted it because I really used it. And they liked my picture, they reused my picture, and then so when it came time for them to kick off their brand ambassador program, of course I was one of the ones who they were interested in. So they flew me out to New York and took care of all my accommodations, and we had an amazing time. So that, to piggyback off of what he said, it is just about tagging, authentically tagging, what it is that you use.
I've heard this term a couple of times today, and I really like the direction of it, more of like the brand ambassador. I'm a brand ambassador for a couple of brands, but one thing that I like about being an ambassador more than just an influencer is it does feel less one-off, and there is more of like a real partnership there. And ambassador programs usually have a bit more structure to them, which can be like a good thing or a bad thing, but one thing that's cool is, for example, their payment structures are built out. So it's just like, this is what we pay for you to do this, and there's none of that like back and forth, and maybe you could have negotiated more or whatever, but sometimes it's just really nice to not even have to worry about it. And it's just like, and it's fair, because that's what everybody is getting. So ambassador programs are pretty cool, because you can there's a camera lens company out of Seattle called Moment Lenses. They're lenses for iPhone, and I just shot a short film for them. They have like a set rate for everybody that does their short films, but then you're also now in the conversation with all these other creatives and influencers, because every time they promote their short film, it's also promoting that entire series of short films that you're a part of. So like an ambassador program makes it better for all the influencers, because they're kind of going to be attracting each other's audiences, and it's better for the brand for those same obvious reasons.
On that note, like the whole community of other creatives in your space, that's been super useful. When we've done events, and kind of what you're saying with bringing other creators, and if you can find a way where, because as a brand you want the exposure, but as a creator you really want more distribution. So finding ways to do engagements and campaigns that engage multiple creators together is always more effective than doing one-offs.
That's another cool thing that some of these ambassadorships do too, is when I provide them content, they are putting money into promoting it. So I don't have to worry about that. So that's like a huge bonus, because not only am I getting paid, but somebody else is paying $1,000 to promote it on Facebook or whatever.
Where do you see this going in the near future in terms of the brands that you're working with? Like, what are they thinking about in terms of the next step, in terms of new technology? I know somebody in the last session brought up VR and AI and AR. And I know Amazon is working on it. I know a bunch of big companies are working on creating these virtual environments and different ways to engage. Is that something that's coming up more and more often?
Yes, so real time, so things like Snapchat, not as much, actually less, but Instagram stories, Facebook Live are definitely becoming more of a trend. But as an agency, I'm also having to educate the brands about it a lot. I know it's great for the influencers. It makes it so it's so much more authentic. It's real time. Your followers love it. And I think that's great, and I want the content. But it's definitely trying to educate the brands on it. They're starting to slowly get there, but it's going to take some time. They're a little afraid of moving forward to that next step, because the metrics aren't as easy to track without getting screenshots from the influencers. They have to almost screenshot the Snapchat to tell us how many views there were. Like, there aren't ways on the back end to track all that right now. So that's the hardest part, but I do see it moving forward, and eventually AR, I know Facebook has Oculus division and stuff like that, so that will maybe in a few years come to tuition as well.
I think future formats, there's always going to be a new format, whether it's live. I know one company on the west side here, they're doing a camera for live streaming in full VR, which is crazy, right? So there's always going to be new formats. I think the creative format is separate from the monetization format. And I think with the monetization format, the issue is really standards. Every channel, like for me on Instagram, a 5%, 10% engagement rate is really great for Instagram. I'm probably never going to get that on Twitter. And then so my value per 1,000 followers is going to change per platform, and it's going to be different for different client, for different audience, and all stuff. So finding ways to set standards across per channel, but also get data to support that on an individual transaction basis, I think is what's needed for the industry. Because without that transparency and without that like clarity of what is what value, then like brands will sponsor people, things won't work out, they'll get upset, creators won't get paid enough, or vice versa, and then everyone just undercuts everybody, and the industry kind of falls apart. So that's what I think is needed for the next step of the industry.
I think that VR and AR are definitely some obvious future things to keep an eye on, but something I have more personal, I guess, experience with is working directly with Facebook and Instagram, creating content that's pretty immediate and content that's perishable, like lives and Instagram stories they send me out to different events. Like I went to the Oscars this year, the Grammys, or Coachella, whatever, and shot Instagram stories for the Oscars or for the Grammys. And so it's a crazy experience, but it's also like shows the value that those institutions are placing on that sort of content, because they're having content creators actually make that for their channels. And I think it's an opportunity for a lot more people to get into that sphere. And then also with Facebook Lives, I mean, one example, I did one with Mariah Carey in her hotel room, which was kind of random. And she got like 4 million views during the 15 minutes that we were live. And she was like, this is like almost how much my TV show premiere had in terms of like eyeballs. So it shows like the value that Facebook Live and things like that can really bring to the table, because the sheer number of eyeballs you can get are pretty wild.
It's just that I feel like brands are starting to realize that, you know, social media, it's the new wave as far as, you know, marketing goes. People aren't less so focused, especially millennials, are less so focused on, you know, watching TV commercials or, you know, looking at the billboards on the side of the road. Everybody is, you know, on their phone now. Everybody, you know, people spend over 9 hours on social media every day. And there's so much power in it, and there's so much influence in it. And just piggybacking off of what you said, like Mariah said, you know, her TV show, you know, got just as many views on a Facebook Live post. So I just feel like that's where it's going. When you're asking what do we feel like, you know, moving forward, and they're scared. Not necessarily scared, but they just don't know. And, you know, kudos to you, because that's a hard job, having to persuade them, like, you know, there is power in this, and, you know, there is influence. And it's because people want to see real life, like not a scripted commercial, but let me see somebody that's wearing that shirt, or let me see somebody that's driving that car, because they can picture themselves doing it. So that's why it's so powerful.
Wow. Well, and it kind of leads to my next question around trust. Like, how do you work with these brands and maintain that trust that you're being real, you're being authentic? Like, are there things that you make sure that you do, things that you make sure that you don't do?
For me, I would just say, you know, they're usually pretty, their expectations of what they want. I make sure, you know, I deliver, and, you know, I'm not the person to do more than that, because I also don't want to, like, I don't want to water it down. You know, I don't want to make it so that, you know, if you ask me for 4 posts, I'm going to do 6. No, I don't need to do that, because, you know, you told me what you wanted, and, you know, as long as I deliver that and I do it, you know, effectively and creatively, and it's original, and, you know, you're pleased with how it turned out, then that's it. So I, you know, pretty cut and dry when it comes to that. Yeah.
Cool.
I think that it's all about setting proper expectations, and then if something goes wrong, just communicating, and just like being real, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're all people. The people working behind the brands are people. Like, you know, just be kind, work as hard as you can. If something happens, just be transparent about it and figure out a way to fix it and make it better.
Right. Mike, anything to add?
I mean, authenticity is tricky, right? I think it really goes back to what I said earlier, which is about the content. Like, every example you gave, you were being paid because you were creating amazing content. And you had distribution too, but they were respecting the value of your content, right? So I think whenever a brand can do that, like, and every campaign that I've seen that's gone crazy successful is because of collaboration between the content creator and the brand. And that's, you know, no good content creator is going to dilute their audience. They're not going to make 5 posts that's just spamming out, because then they'll lose audience, they'll lose engagement. That's not sustainable. And there's a platform that someone showed me a couple days ago, which is just really bad, because it says, if you get this request, and you have to just copy paste the post. And that's just like, no one uses it because it's horrible for everybody. And I think that's, when it comes to trust, you know, again, if I can have a really cool post, that's what I would do anyway, or that's really what my audience wants, then that brand is not, they're paying me, but they're paying me to create amazing content that my audience wants more of, and enabling me to create more of that. And so that's, I think that's the core of what it comes down to.
So it leads to a question for you in terms of working with the big brands, and I'm hearing a lot of, you know, today, especially a lot of desire to control the message that you're delivering as an influencer, to have that freedom to do that. Like how do you work on that with these large brands that I know the brand manager is losing it because they're terrified that there's this world out there that they have no control over? What's your message to them usually?
So much education. I honestly, like half the time when I get a new client, I sit down with them for like over an hour just teaching them like, this is how the influencer marketing works. This is why it works. You need to trust them. There's definitely a lot of in the vetting period too, though. We'll send them like, here's all the influencers before we even engage them. Like, go through their channel, and like I'll walk them through a few of them and be like, look what they're posting. There's nothing bad, I promise. Never post anything like sexual, because you'll be automatically scratched out as an influencer for most brands. So we just have to go through a lot and teach them a lot of education and give them realistic expectations at the beginning of every campaign. And we kind of just try to sell them on the fact that like the content that's going to be coming out, you're going to be having 10, 20, 100 heads thinking of these awesome creative content versus me or you. Like there's just 2 of us and there's 100 of them coming up with way better ideas than we can come up with. So you need to I teach them about having to trust the influencers.
I mean, to keep it simple, I think it's just like, people buy your product because your product is uniquely better for you for that use. And if you work with the influencer or creator, work with them for what they're uniquely doing. And that's just that simple.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have like any personal experiences with a brand that you don't need to name the name of the brand just for safety? But any experiences you're like, okay, this is not how you do it? Or do you just avoid them completely?
I mean, honestly, in a lot of ways, I avoid them completely, and I didn't used to. I think when I started out, I was more like you were just so excited that somebody would want to work with you that you would jump through hoops for like nothing. And now I like value my work, and I work with amazing people. And once you find the ones that stick, like you just keep working together, because it's like every job I go on, I just get to work with, I get to see my friends, you know? So that's how it is for me. But the one time I alluded to a time in a different panel where I did say like, all right, I'm just gonna take the money from this brand because it was just a good payday or whatever. And like people were just commenting or sending me things like, dude, what is going on? Because they just knew. And it didn't make any sense why the brand honestly would have picked me for that campaign. So like, I don't think it was a good thing for them either. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I haven't had any bad experiences. I guess, I just got lucky, but I haven't had any like crazy things happen.
I was gonna say, we do focus groups internally with influencers, so I've definitely heard some fun horror stories. There's been brands who literally tell the person how exactly how to stand in front of what they're supposed to stand, like what color wall they have to stand in front of, exactly how they have to hold the product, and then like the exact messaging. Like there's been plenty of brands who I haven't worked with them because I don't let them do that, but there's been plenty of brands who talk to me and tell influencers to do certain things, and every time the influencer, as soon as it's posted, they get paid, they're taking that photo down so fast. So it's not something that's going to be a good thing for the brand.
I think if you're going to do that and your brand like feels that's the way it's supposed to be, then go run a Google ad or go run your own commercial. Like it's the same thing. There's no point. Like you're not hiring an influencer creator for that. I mean, if a creator is just a dumb distribution source, you should not be using them for that reason. But on the creator side, I think like kind of what you guys are saying is that when you start out, there's a lot you don't know. Like you value your work, right? But it took time to respect, like to price that and respect that, and keep that a standard, you know. So I think a lot of education needed on both sides, on like what the core is and what you should expect. And I think as long as what you're saying with expectations is up front, you can make it work.
Anybody have any questions for the group? If not, I can keep rolling. Yeah, sure.
Should I ask about B2B again?
If you want, I can answer it.
Actually, it's another issue that I'm trying to wrap my head around, because you're talking about trust and authenticity. But you're still being paid, you should, if you're following FTC guidelines, have ad or sponsor spawn your SPR. Total bullshit, that's another story.
Yeah.
How do you balance authenticity and transparency and trust? Because And at some point, where do you cross the line of being paid shill that just doesn't put buckets?
So I can say what we do in an agency. I actually don't have my people use hashtag ad or spawn. What I have them say is instead, they follow FTC guidelines. I saw faces. I have them say like flat out in the messaging like, hey, I'm working with this brand and I'm partnering with them. It's more authentic to say that than hashtag ad because you're being upfront to your audience, in my opinion. So in my opinion, it's always been like, hey, I'm working with this brand, but I'm working with them because I like them. Like there's gotta be that right messaging. No, it does. It's actually more upfront than saying hashtag ad. Hashtag ad is actually questionable.
Yeah, so the best, like, partnered with, in collaboration with, working with, those are all qualified. FTC's approved that, and it's explicit. But then that also goes back to the whole thing of, then your content should really be you as well as the brand, and then it looks better, resonates better, and that authenticity, that truth is still there.
So, in 140 characters, though.
In Twitter? Yeah, that's the hardest one.
The FTC does not think about the formats they're trying to enforce. Like, they just want enforcement. So it gets tricky, but yeah.
Yeah.
They do think about it.
Yeah.
We advise FTC. There's a few brands that actually help them.
Okay.
And hashtag ad actually is very discreet. It's got to be above the.
Yeah.
They want it in the very beginning.
Yeah.
They want it. You can also say stuff like that in working with, but they're coming down pretty hard on these guidelines.
Yeah.
When you look at a news feed, or you look at Yahoo's front page, and there's that ad of that content. Like they want to get it as close to that as possible. And have to be able to discern within a second that this is sponsored content, and they're not going to stop until they get there. And there's still a lot of offenses. So I think hashtag ad is fine, but
you have to put up front. Yeah.
They want it right in front.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, a lot of people use hashtag ad in their Instagram post and they hide it on the bottom. So it's something you have to tell. That's why we tell our people like, no, we'd rather you just say I'm working with in the beginning, because when they say, like they use 30 hashtags and the hashtag ad's buried in the middle of it. That's not really following guidelines.
Or they'll put in the first comment, which is like just as bad.
Yeah.
How will you police that? And what's the ramifications? I see a lot of these.
Our influencers don't get paid till they properly do it.
No, but like
But
brands where they're just hand in pocket and they're just selling that.
Brands will get penalized. I mean, like the people who are going to get like come down on are not really going to be the smaller influencers. They're going to be the brands and the platforms and the big influencers too. But like they're going to get penalized, and they're the ones that are going to get caught. And so every brand I've ever worked with is very aware of that, and they want to make sure that they're adhering to it, and their posts are adhering to it. And like on our platform, you don't get paid till you've completed it to that standard. And we educate as well on both sides. Yes.
Hi. So you just mentioned that you don't pay your influencers until after they post it and they follow all the guidelines. I'm also at an agency. A lot of our influencers will refuse to even start unless they receive partial or even full payment. So we do a contract with them and include making sure they follow the FTC guidelines in there. I'm just wondering, how do you get around that with influencers who are like, I'm not even going to write anything up because they say in the past they've had issues where they created content and they never got paid. And we completely understand that.
Yeah.
So, we pay them, we just make them sign a contract first. So I'm wondering how you are getting around that.
I mean, a lot of the influencers we either have a relationship or a person or another connection with, so they've been really easy to work with. But if there are a few that do that, and I definitely just the same thing, then I'll make them sign a contract, and then we only do half pay and then half pay at the end. So it does sometimes go both ways, but generally we work with a lot of micro influencers. So generally with micro influencers, they're understanding. And as soon as they post, we pay them within 24 hours. So they like us because of that.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a big difference between being on like a net 30 or net 60 or something like that, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I usually do 50% up front, almost always.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing.
24 hours. Are you getting the cash up front from your clients, or are you guys got 30 your data on your own money?
We get paid half up front and half the end, but if it's not, we pay still. We take that.
Yeah, no, so that's, I mean, yeah, that's actually a good question. Like for us as a platform and user agency, that's tricky to manage the cash flow.
Yeah.
I think if I have an influencer, like I want a massive deposit up front, I'm probably not going to work with them. Unless they're in a certain category. So if they're like YouTube and they're creating a show, if you're going on a trip, if you're creating content, you need production costs, totally respect that. that should take a deposit. And we have a deposit platform on our platform for that. We also have an escrow, so it means that like us as a platform, we hold the money so the brand can't deny payment. That's happened before. I've seen, like as an influencer, I've had brands like, oh yeah, we'll pay you when you post it, and then I just never get paid. So I think like quickness of payment, trust, but it's hard to scale trust.
Yeah.
And then just knowing when it is and isn't needed.
Yeah.
I think if you are aware that like, yeah, I'm gonna go on this thing, I'm gonna go build something, it's gonna cost me money to do it, to make this whole production, then the brand should put some money up front.
Yeah, which we do, sorry, that's true. If there's an event or something more scaled, then those usually the contracts, and that's when the half payments up front.
Just a little input as an influencer. I mean, I've been working, it's like 2 years with so many different companies, and I had only one time that a brand did not pay. And I do always payment afterwards right now, because I used to do half and half, and it gets so complicated to work with so many different brands. Who paid you half? Probably have to become like such a genius with like writing everything down so much down and remembering everything. I get paid afterwards, and it always works, but that's just my own opinion. Yeah, it's a matter of kind of trust.
You're probably a cool influencer. I mean, like I said, if someone's like, I want money up front, I'm like, you're probably not the one I'm working with.
Yeah, and I'll addend my statement too to say that if it's somebody I've worked with a lot, I usually am totally fine with just doing it afterwards. Yeah.
Does anybody remember Mode.com, aka Glam?
Yeah.
An agency that went under and influencers lost thousands of dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a complicated story.
Weeks out, but that's why some influencers want to be paid up front, because there have been instances where I lost a lot of money because I wasn't paid, but it happened.
And we ask our brands to, like, when a brand works with us, we hold their funds up front so that we have it, you know, before we even send the offer to the creator.
I've heard the term micro-influencer 75 times today. How do you all define it? Because is there a definition, or does it depend on the industry and the topic?
I think that there is, because you have, you know, big, huge influencers with a lot of following, but companies are starting to realize that it's not necessarily the following that the emphasis should always be on, but the engagement and the quality of the content that the influencer is posting. You can have somebody and they may not have, you know, 1 million followers, but they have a gazillion comments and they are posting amazing, you know, content, and that has, you know, a lot of power too.
I think there's 3 metrics, but are you like a, those like celebrities, right? Those micro influencers, and like there's like 3 things that I look for. One is audience, overall audience size. If it's under 100,000, really under 50,000, or under 75,000, the kind of range, depending who you ask. You know, it's like 100 to like 75,000. That's the sweet spot. The other one is, did they build their influence for what they're posting about? So I'll give you an example. If I'm a celebrity and I'm just a famous celebrity, and I'm posting about a car, but nothing about my celebrity has anything to do with cars, I'm a celebrity, but I have influence, but I'm not a micro-influencer. And then it's also, the third thing is niche. It's like, am I really focused on a specific thing? And that's really what that micro-influence, the type of influence is the metric, or the measurement.
I have a burning question that I want to personally. As an influencer, what is your opinion of those the influencer networks that are out there? Would you ever join one? Would you ever work with one? Or do you prefer natural outreach, natural engagement owned by the?
They never, I mean, sometimes you get, you know, stuff from them, but most of the time, like, you know, I haven't really, you know, they don't really work to my benefit, just to be honest. And I'd rather it be personal. I'd rather, you know, me directly reaching out or somebody directly reaching out to me. I think that it's more beneficial in the end.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm not saying that there isn't a benefit to them, because I've never tried, and maybe if I did, I would be like, oh, that's amazing. But I find that it's like so easy for me to build those relationships organically. Like, if I like somebody's work and they like mine, and then we just like meet up and have a beer or coffee or whatever, like kind of just old school in that way, like just building actual like personal relationships. That's the amazing thing some of these social platforms can do, is I've met incredible people that I never would have met without them. I've been to amazing places I never would have been without them. So in that way, it really is life-changing or transformational to use these platforms, but I just still rather kind of do that filtration myself a little bit.
The problem with that is most of the platforms, I mean, I think like 99.9% of the platforms out there are tools and software as a service or matchmaking pseudo agencies for brands. No one, I mean, we're trying to do this, but there's a couple of companies trying to do the same thing, but create a tool for the creator. I mean, if a creator has to, if I have to do, like, I'm on FameBit, and if I'm writing proposals all day long to get one job, it's not worth my time. And I'm probably not going to get the job anyway. But if a brand's coming to me because they know me and they know what I'm doing and they like that, then that's a better match, whether it's organic or through a platform. And the platform has to be able to do that in a way to have a high enough ratio. So if I get up there and only 5% of your creators or 1% of your creators are getting jobs, then you're not a really good platform.
Cool. What are you seeing in terms of media spend budget being adjusted towards more influence?
Definitely. A lot of money is being transferred over. I don't know if anyone's in a PR agency, sorry if you are. A lot of your money is going to be transitioning over into the digital influencer marketing world, is what I've seen for a lot of my clients. They started working through larger firms like Edelman and Weber Shandwick, trying to have them do influencer marketing, and they've realized that that's not the best route. So they've been transitioning those dollars to traditional marketing agencies and different influencers, agencies that can handle it for them.
Well, and platforms, because like the bigger agencies,
and lots of platforms.
Because the agencies, like if you're at Edelman and you're charging a super high billable rate and it costs you 3 hours just to find a micro influencer, you've paid more to find them than to do the job. But in terms of numbers, I mean, the projection for this year is that there's going to be $1 billion spent purely on sponsored content on Instagram, and they're expecting to double that to $2.2 billion next year. So the market's there, and it's pulling from like PR budgets, it's pulling from brand messaging budgets, it's pulling from content budgets.
And working with brands, when you're coming back to them and proving the results that you've made, what sort of areas do you usually focus on? Is there any particular data points that they look for consistently, or does it change for every single campaign that you do with them?
Instagram makes it super easy now because there's the analytics that they offer that it doesn't show everything, and then also like, for me, like just engagement, them being able to go back and see those comments. You post a picture and having people that are really interested and really, they're leaving comments not because it's, anything, but they're really truly were, pleased with how the photo looked or pleased how the content looked, and they want to know more. So I would say that that's huge.
Yeah, I would say for me that, at least from my vantage point, content's still king. So like what I'm actually providing them in the end, for me at least, is what's most important. Like, what does the video look like? What do the photos look like? Because usually, for me at least, I'm sharing it, but I'm also like giving it to them for their social media channels or their website or whatever it might be. So that's important. Also, like, engagement's super important, but who that engagement is. And as a photographer, I know that a lot of the people that really follow my stuff or like everything or whatever are like other photographers or models or people in like this industry or people in LA that are moving and shaking or whatever. So it's like the quality of that reach is pretty solid, you know what I mean? Because I can bring a product somewhere and somebody else is like, oh, that's dope, and they have 100,000 followers or something like that.
What do brands expect from you, usually? What is usually that key ROI point? I know there was a session that was ROI focused earlier, but
yeah, a lot. So I mean, we'll work with brands on different levels. So some are expecting just impressions. Some we're trying to direct them more to impressions from the right audience, so it's more audience focused. But then obviously, like, the engagement is the big thing that the brands are looking for. And then we have some brands that also look for just content creation. They want to use the photos for everything else as well. So they're more worried about the brand awareness and the content that they can use later. So it's varied per client.
Cool. Any other questions out there? Yeah.
The two kids who are with agencies, how do you guys find the potential influencers you want to work with? Is it that they come to your website and submit their own, like a form with all their information? Or are you on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube finding them like guerrilla style?
So we're trying to be a tool for every creator to use, and so we're marketing ourselves to creators to say, listen, this is the easier way to get paid, have creative control and all that stuff. And so most of our outreach is either like me as an influencer through my influencer networks, through other influencers. So we'll work with the influencers that are on our platform already and work with them to show how they're benefiting. We try to keep the ratio. Like if someone joins our website, we want them, we're private beta right now, so like we're curating, but we're making sure they're getting a job, 30% of the people get a job within like 2 weeks. So they're having a good experience and we're happy to share that. The other side of it is, if I know I have a brand, like right now I have a cannabis brand who wants to throw money at us, and that's kind of a hard influencer to find. So I'm going through all the Facebook posts, I'm looking at the hashtags, I'm looking at other hashtags from other brands that have already sponsored people, seeing who they sponsor and doing outreach. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I'd say same. It's kind of a combination of a lot. So I'd say only 0.05 are the people who come to our website. But a lot of it is really through looking through hashtags, looking through brands when we have a client, and finding what people are posting about. Definitely hashtags and stuff a lot. And then the other part is using our influencers that we already know and using them to help find even more influencers. So we use, like I said, we use them almost as contractors to help us get even more influencers on the campaigns and on board for things. So a lot of networking and a lot of guerrilla style looking through social media.
Any additional questions? Anything else? Yes.
Did I hear right that when you pay an influencer to do a sponsored post or a brand package or something like that, you guys delete the content after you got paid?
You don't want that.
Only, not always, not always.
Some influencers do that if it's something that didn't align with their brand. They'll post it for 2 days or whatever. Some people do ask for a contract saying that you can't delete the content. Some people will ask for more specifics, like, hey, you have to post in your feed, but I want you to post a video or a boomerang because it's easier for me to track those analytics, things like that. But a lot of people, especially smaller brands, just don't have that knowledge, so they don't ask for those sort of things. I personally, I post stuff that I'm proud of, so I don't really delete it, but that isn't a way of getting around that, though, is you do have Instagram stories and things like that, because there are things I'll post on there that I wouldn't post in feed, and that's also gets plenty of eyeballs on it.
Yeah, I charge less for an Instagram story than I do for an Instagram post, but at the same note, if I'm working with a brand I really like, I'm not going to want to delete that, and actually it hurts me as an influencer. I know it hurts me for my audience because I'll notice disappearing posts, which feels inauthentic. The other issue is, and I'm trying to confirm this right now, but supposedly, if you do that consistently, it can blacklist your Instagram account. And I've heard this from some people at Instagram. I'm just trying to get confirmation right now. But ultimately, it's a bad thing. I mean, if you're an influencer, you really shouldn't be taking a job that you don't want to keep on your Instagram or whatever platform you're on.
That just means you were doing it for the money anyway, and it should be more than that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're getting paid, but like, does this really align with your brand at the end of the day? And if it doesn't, to the point where you have to go delete it, then you shouldn't have taken the deal in the first place.
Cool. Anything else? All right, so we're, oh, go ahead.
Jeremy, did you have a?
So yes.
How do you cost out for this? Is it like a la carte menu? You say, I have per platform all these different spots that I can advertise for X amount of time. Here's my rate. And how do you quantify? How do you tier the brands? Or are you negotiating?
I would say a lot of that is just it's a part of the negotiation. Usually the brand will be the ones that'll come to you with, hey, like, we'll pay you this, and then from there you negotiate. I know some influencers, and they have a rule where they always triple whatever it is that comes to them. They don't take, whatever the first offer is. And, you would think like, oh, you shouldn't do that because then they might not want to work with you, but just, sitting and talking to them, they actually earn more respect because at the end of the day, it's business. And you showing that you know how to conduct business, it's recognized, and, it's a part of the negotiation process. They can say no, or you can come up with, a fine median, but
no real metrics.
I have really strong feelings about this. Because the reason why is like, okay, do you go to a lawyer and you're like, oh, I know your rate's $500 an hour, but like, I need this thing for $100. Like, you're not going to go do that. You might say, hey, can you do 400? But you're not going to decide. If you don't set the rate, then you're not valuing what you're doing. If everything's negotiable, then nothing has value, and that's an issue. So I think On the other hand, you need to respect what the brand can afford. If it's a small business, I know they're not going to be able to pay me $1,000, but they might pay me $50, $20, $100. But if I love the product, it's okay. So I think getting to that thing where negotiation generally is good to a certain extent, but you've got to come with like, hey, I'm the brand, this is what I can afford, or I am the influencer, and this is what I'm worth, and this is what my standard should be. Now, that standard will vary by platform, but if you want a simple formula, it's the cost of creation times your per 1,000 followers, and a dollar basis of like $1 to $10, depending on your engagement. And on platforms like Instagram, it's going to be higher. On platforms like Twitter, it's going to be lower. But that's the basic formula. But if you don't have a standard, you're basically devaluing yourself as a business or as a brand.
I've heard it said before, and I don't even know if I believe this, but I thought it was interesting. I heard it said before that whoever says the price first loses, and that's because you lose your negotiating ability to a degree. I don't know. I mean, to me, it feels a little gamey. Like, I think that once you're generating enough work where you don't have to get this project to pay your rent or whatever, it puts you in a better spot because you can like stay more true to your day rate and not worry if somebody's like, no, can't afford that, I'm going with this guy or whatever. I said this in the last panel, I hate to repeat myself, but I find this really handy as just a simple equation of how much do I want to do this project, right? So I have a number in my head, right? Like, this is my number, this is my day rate. How much do I want to do this project? Is this going to be a great look for my portfolio? Is this super on brand? Is this like a band that I would kill to work with, whatever? Second part, how much do I want to work with this client? Like, because the project might be cool, but the guy might be an asshole or something, you know what I mean? Like, and so you got to figure out that part. Do they seem awesome? Have I worked with them before, et cetera? And then the third part is, what's their time frame? Because a lot of times people are calling you and like, I needed this like a week ago, can you know what I mean? But if they're willing to work with you, so if it's a smaller brand, they're really cool, you like their stuff, you like them, they can work with your schedule, the price can kind of come down. If it's something that's super off-brand, you don't like the people, like all the other way, price is going to go up.
But you're judging your pricing it based on reasons. It's not just like, I can negotiate regardless. It's saying, these are why it'll be more expensive. Well, I'm super slim right now, so I'll do it, but it's going to be expensive. But that's a really good reason why your price is expensive. You're valuing what you're doing, right? If you want to see a parallel for like what this could happen and what you don't want to happen, is the design industry. When someone's like, oh yeah, I need a logo done. And like, oh, you can get a $50 logo, you can get a $5,000 logo. And that price is so variable. And when it's not based on really transparent, when it's arbitrary, then everyone loses. So like your example is perfect because there's a reason for it.
And just like looking at it on the flip side, or kind of piggybacking from what you were saying, is that you don't want to, this whole thing is new to everyone, so you don't want to just, do stuff for free or do stuff for, whatever first low rate that they throw at you, because at the end of the day, when it comes time to, it's a business and you do want to make money from it, you don't want, them to be able to like, oh, well, I don't want your rate because I can go get it from Joe over here for free. And that's an issue that a lot of influencers are having right now. They're terming it, you're watering it down. You have those people that just are so excited that, they're getting these deals, but they're not charging anything. And then essentially you're saying you're not worth anything. Like, you have to value what you do. So.
And Joe down the street might technically have the same followers, but like the way you're going to do a cool post is going to be completely different than him, and your creative might be way better, and that's worth it because that's going to sell better, and you're more expensive because of that, right?
Great. I think we're standing between you guys and happy hour. So last round, lightning round, each of you, if you had one thing that you wanted someone to walk away with from today, what would that be? Let's start with you.
All right, for the brands, try to make sure to have either your agency or you to pick the influencers that actually match your brand, that have the right followers and care about their content. And for the influencers, you guys know this and you're really great at it, but stay true to yourself and make sure to not post things that you don't think fit your channel.
I think it's about collaboration and in that truest sense, right? And also on the brand side, don't spend money finding the influencers, spend money collaborating, spend money on the product, spend money on the deliverable, because you're gonna get better results. On the creator side, same thing. Like, look at it not as I'm being paid to post, but I'm collaborating, and your thoughts have value, your creative has value. Yeah, I mean, and if anyone has any questions about this, hit me up, Mike at tinysponsor.com. Happy to talk about anything. So.
Yeah, I think you both nailed it. I mean, the words in the title, authenticity. You know, be authentic on both sides. Be good to each other on both sides. If you're a brand, know that you gotta pay for and respect people's work. And if you're an influencer, know that you gotta then put in that work and deliver something awesome.
Absolutely, with everything you guys said. Just it's all about collaboration and and creating things, and the way to do it is through being authentic, because that's how you gain the trust. So.
Great. Well, thanks, Darren, Cole, Mike, Nicole. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.